In this video, I will take you with me in my fat loss journey from 118 kilos down to 96. Then I will explain in detail the exact process I followed, along with some tips that can make the whole diet process way easier and more manageable. Plus, I will pinpoint the one thing that is more important than the diet itself. And no, it's not exercise. I'm Panos, and less than a year ago, I was fat, sluggish, and ready for a change. I've been working out for almost 10 years now, and I have successfully navigated 3 major fat loss phases and a lot of mini cuts. But this was the heaviest I've ever been and the most amount of weight I've lost in one go. Everything started last February. I knew I had to lose more than 20 kilograms. Let's do it. In mid-April, I fell off my bike and injured my elbow. The doctor told me I'll be out of the gym for 4 to 6 weeks, which meant I had to pause my fat loss phase. I didn't want to risk losing muscle, so I switched to eating in a slight surplus. I had already planned a diet break for May, so I just took it 2 weeks earlier. During that time, I continued to train my legs normally and my upper body as intensely as I could without feeling any pain or any discomfort. My arm feels great. I am almost a kilo heavier, but I am more than happy that I can start with my weight loss again, feeling fresh and ready to smash it. The whole thing felt amazing as I could see my body transforming from week to week. I know that if I can do it, so can you. I'll break down the process in 3 distinct steps: planning, executing, and post-diet handling. The first thing you need to determine is how much weight you are trying to lose. It is generally advisable to cap your weight loss at around 10% of your body weight per diet phase. If it's closer to 15%, it's probably a good idea to split your diet in 2 distinct phases and take a good break in between. This approach allows for a valuable physical and psychological reset and also gives your metabolism the opportunity to adjust. This way you can tackle your next diet phase without having to reduce your calories down to unhealthy levels. In my case, the goal was to lose 22 kilograms, so around 20% of my body weight. So it was clear from the beginning that I had to split the process. I aimed for 12 kilos first and then another 10, because the heavier and fatter you are, the easier it is to get rid of the excessive fat. Also, I wanted to go more aggressive in the beginning while I was still fresh and super motivated. If you're unsure of how much weight you want to lose, I would suggest to set a goal of 10 to 12%, and once you reach that milestone, you can reassess. It is also smart to aim for a weight loss of 0.5 to 1% on a weekly basis. This pace makes it way more likely to maintain or even increase your performance throughout the fat loss phase and minimizes muscle loss. The rate of weight loss, along with your weight goal, will determine how long its diet phase will be. For me, the plan was to lose 12 kilos, going for about a kilo per week. This meant that I would need 12 weeks to go down to 106. For the second run, the idea was roughly the same. The only difference is that now I planned to lose the weight at a slightly lower rate, around 0.75 kilos per week. This meant that my second phase would extend to 13 to 14 weeks. A good rule of thumb for the diet break, well, I really hate this term because it's pretty misleading. I will explain you why in a minute. For now, let's just call it a maintenance phase. A good rule of thumb for a maintenance phase is to make it almost as long as your preceding diet phase if you're a beginner, and almost a third to half as long if you are already experienced with dieting. Remember, it's more about experimenting and finding out what works best for you. So if your diet phase was around 10 weeks, and you're relatively new to dieting, I would suggest to take a maintenance phase of, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks. In my case, having dieted down a ton of times before, I planned a maintenance phase that was only 4 weeks, which ended up being 6 weeks because I injured my elbow. Alright, now we know our end goal and a rough timeline. Let's get to work. The first step is to reasonably reduce your caloric intake and monitor your weight to see the impact of these changes. A kilo is roughly around 8,000 calories, so if your goal is to lose half a kilo per week, you'll need to consume about 550 calories below your maintenance each day. In order to achieve that, you have to know your maintenance calories. If you are already tracking what you eat and you know this number, then amazing, you're good to go. If not, it's easy to work around it. Just find an online maintenance calorie calculator, enter your details, and you will get a rough estimate. Now that you know your maintenance calories and your deficit goal, you can easily calculate your daily intake. Start by eating your calorie goal daily and weigh yourself at least 4 times per week, ideally every day. Then you have to completely ignore the first 2 weeks of weight data, as the numbers can be pretty misleading due to water fluctuations. From the third week, start paying attention to your weekly weight loss. If it's below your goal for 2 consecutive weeks, then consider reducing your calorie intake by 300 to 400 calories. Monitor again for the next 2 to 3 weeks and adjust your intake only if needed. Keep repeating this process for the weeks to come until you hit your end goal. Remember, adjustments you make now will show up in the scale at least a week later. So be patient and give around 2 to 3 weeks to see the results of changes you make to your intake numbers. In the description, I will leave a link to the spreadsheet I have made and I am using for the past years for my tracking. I know that the whole process can be really overwhelming in the beginning, and I genuinely want to make it as accessible as I can to you. This sheet not only helps you track your progress, but really simplifies the whole diet process. It includes a built-in calculator for maintenance calories and provides suggestions for caloric intake and macros based on your goal. It displays weekly averages for weight, macros, and calories, shows the difference from the previous week, and gives a 2 and 4 week overview of your progress. This helps you make calculated adjustments to your intake without getting lost in day-to-day weight fluctuations. Simply input your data once per week and make adjustments bi-weekly if needed. I did not forget. I really hate this term because it's pretty misleading. It can be misleading as it implies that you are stopping your diet, while in reality you are still counting everything you eat and you have a daily caloric goal. You are continuing to track your weight, and the only difference is that you bump up your calories back to your maintenance. Your diet isn't stopping, your calories are just back to maintenance levels. Keep in mind though that your maintenance levels after 10 or 12 weeks of dieting are probably lower than what they were when you started, and you have to calculate them again. The good thing is that now you have all the data you need to do it easily. Just check your average intake for the previous 2 weeks and your average weight loss. As we know, a kilo is roughly 8,000 calories. If you lost half a kilo on average per week while you were eating, let's say, 2,500 calories, you had 4,000 calories of weekly deficit. Divide this by 7 and this is your daily deficit, and also the amount of calories you need to add back to your daily intake in order to be at maintenance again. For the first week, again, ignore all the fluctuations in your weight. After that, if you are losing or gaining more than 0.3% per week, adjust your intake accordingly. Once your maintenance phase is over, take a deep breath and start your next diet phase. The process is exactly the same. The less experienced you are, the more likely it is to not hit your time frames correctly. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's not a failure, but a part of the learning process. We've all been there. If this is the case, feel free to extend its diet phase by 1 or 2 or even 3 weeks in order to achieve your weight loss goals. If you are also counting your macros, its reduction in calories should come from carbs. If not, aim to meet at least the protein target suggested by the calculator. Hitting your protein is crucial as it significantly impacts how much muscle mass you are going to retain through a fat loss phase. I know that dieting, especially in the later stages, can be pretty hard, and you have to be prepared for that. To get through it in the least painful way, you can check my fat loss hacks video where I explain in detail the strategies I use. You will find it somewhere here. Successfully losing the weight, unfortunately, isn't enough to deem a diet successful. The real challenge and the marker of success is keeping that weight off for the months and years to come, or at least until you decide to put it back on. The default after a diet is unfortunately a rebound. And the majority of people that think they succeeded it just because they managed to lose the weight are ending up gaining back most of it, if not all of it. But we don't want to be like the rest. The post-diet period should be an integral part of your diet, the same way we are viewing the diet break as a maintenance phase. It took me more than 3 diet cycles to understand the harm caused by immediately returning to unrestricted eating and indulging right after a diet. This is a critical time when cravings are intense, food is deeply missed, your metabolism is slow, and psychologically you are likely worn out by the consecutive months of deficit. Fortunately, the solution is pretty straightforward. Another maintenance phase. Yep, another phase like the diet break I described earlier. The way I like to do it is take one off-plan meal right after the diet to treat myself for all this effort. If you think that this one meal will escalate in multiple cheat meals the following days, please skip it. You can always do it later when your body and mind are ready. After that one free meal, I keep eating the exact same foods for the next 2 to 4 weeks until I feel ready to eat other things. How do I justify that I am ready? Well, the intense cravings are completely gone and I generally feel that the diet is somewhat over. Then 2 to 4 weeks will follow where I add 300 calories to my daily intake in order to give my metabolism some room to grow. I'm still tracking everything I eat to make sure that I'm well within my caloric goal. After these 4 to 8 weeks, the diet is officially over and a new massing phase begins. Training wise, I really don't want to say much here, as I am planning on doing a similar video on how to plan and execute the fat loss phase from a training perspective. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. But for now, your workout shouldn't change much. Same split, same structure, same exercises and rep ranges. Your goal from now on shifts from building to maintaining muscle. If I can do it, so can you. Now you have all the tools you need to make the change. The only thing left is you taking the first step. If you have any questions or you need any clarification for the whole process, please feel free to leave a comment and I will be more than happy to answer and help you with that. If you found anything valuable in the video, please drop a like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. Cheers!